Yo,
Hey,
John,
finally. Ndiyaphila khona kunjani ku?
I'm super just hungry. Okay, so it's fitting actually. I was thinking about it, but
Yeah,
we last time we talked, we had to talk about that whole bullying and violence thing.
yes.
So, what better way than to start there as well with this whole Will Smith and Chris Rock situation?
Oh yeah,
What's your
yeah,
take?
that pissed me off. That
What,
really just hit hard for me. Oof.
what's your take on that?
I'm trying to find a better word, but look, Will fucked up. He messed up his own night actually. And that's the irony of it all, that it was his night. I mean, there's only a handful of black actors who've ever won Oscars. We basically keep tabs on the amount of black actors that have won Oscars. That's how few they are. So for you to actually go and hit someone and make headlines for hitting someone while you won an Oscar, ngubani oluzayo? You know, who's the biggest loser? It
Mm.
was not necessary. And my thing is, I do feel that there is a certain level of manipulation from the wife's side, because if you look at the clip, Chris cracks the joke, right? And then Will Smith is laughing, but the wife isn't. And I'm thinking, when the cameras were actually not focusing on Will Smith and the wife, he probably just watch and then noticed that, the wife was not finding this funny. So it's like, whoa, I'm going to get in trouble with my wife. So I need to act fast, because now it seems as though I am actually one of these people that are actually laughing at her situation. I mean, he took it on a deeper level, because it was not really about the alopecia you know, it was not alopecia related. I don't think it was. I mean, the lady that Chris referred to, Jada, to, is actually she's a pretty lady. Because I remember the character was played by Demi Moore. Pretty lady, and I mean, the movie was in her name. So obviously it's an empowering movie as well. So then what is so insulting about that? Why do you need to take it deeper? I don't think it was that deep, actually. And what's your take?
Do you Um, well, wait, before we get into my take,
Yeah,
do you think what he did was on any level justified?
not at any level. I feel like Chris actually paid for all the nonsense that Will has gone through. Because if you recall, sometime back there was a cheating scandal. The word entanglement was everywhere because of the situationship that Jada had. I believe August Alsina, I believe he's a musician. I think I've heard something from him. He was friends with Jaden, which is the son, obviously. And from that point, apparently, he ended up being friends with the entire family and stuff. And one thing led to another, whatever, because apparently he was suffering from some mental illness. And initially, Jada and the husband wanted to be those people that were helping him out with his issues. I don't know how it ended up that Jada was now sleeping with this guy. So obviously, Will, being the one that was forgiving, or understanding rather, not necessarily forgiving, because they went on record to say that they were experiencing some issues in their marriage back then. Therefore, they basically decided to have some sort of like a separation situation going on. So the marriage was not that good at the time when that sex happened. But I mean, he was a meme everywhere, because he appeared on the wife's show to sort of like show that him and his wife are in unity. That only made things worse. Well, what sort of a man are you? This boy was someone that was your friend's child. You guys basically, accommodated him. understood his situation and he ends up in your wife's bed and you understand that, you know. So he was already getting a lot of slack on the internet about that, memes left, right, and center. So I feel like it was a guy who was about to explode at any point. Unfortunately, Chris had to be on the receiving end of that explosion. It wasn't justified.
Mm,
Don't feel it was.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you then? Well, would you say then to the people that then say that that Jada was being or has been a victim of, say, the illness, and as a result, when Chris then said that, he went
Yeah.
way too far, and what as a result of that, Will then
Mm.
had to then defend and honor his family, and
Yeah.
then by doing so, he then decided to get up and go and rectify the situation. What do you then say to people that see it in that viewpoint?
But what is going too far? He never made a set based on Jada's situation. It was just a passing joke. By the time he got punched, he was not talking about the joke anymore. He had moved on to something else, to a different segment. So it wasn't
Yeah.
something
Okay.
ongoing, basically. It was the front row seat people that were, he was throwing jabs at. So it was a jab, he moved on. Say, move on, this guy waltzed into the stage and then he gets smacked. So
So
how are
what?
they saying that he took it far? How far could he have taken it? It was not
So
really a
let's
nice
say,
joke.
yeah, let's say he interpreted it as
Yeah.
something that was quite far,
Mm.
right? So let's say
Yeah.
from his point of view, he felt as though, Joe, I know this is really, this is the line. Is
Yeah.
there, what do you have to say then to that? Do you think that then that still justifies what he did? Or do you think that there is any justification to what he did?
There is no justification. As I've said before, I do believe that there is an underlying factor. A person had been pushed to their limit. If we can then maybe link it to bullyism, you've been bullied throughout, for a certain period of time, you've been the victim. And then someone just comes to you and then pokes you, but then you were just waiting for anything. Like any touch was a move. How we say it in the hood. Any touch was a move at that point, basically. So I do believe that the Chris situation was definitely a catalyst. If it was not Chris, it would have been anyone else. He just reached his breaking point, I would believe. You get me? So there was no justification. He's going through his own things, I think. I feel like he did overreact. The setup of the whole entire thing was not right. He wasn't supposed to react like that. As a black man, we Oscars.
So, okay, so then, okay, so he shouldn't have reacted that way, and that was not
Yes.
the right way to take care of that situation. Now,
Mm-hmm.
is there any way that you can think of whereby that action, exactly what he had did, would
Yeah.
have been justified?
Yeah, I mean, he could have still shouted from the chair.
No, no, no.
What?
I'm saying him going to hit Chris Rock. Do you think
Yes.
that or him committing the violence? Do you think that then there is any situation where you can think of where you can then justify that?
Oh no, definitely, definitely, definitely. I feel like if he maybe had cracked an August joke, well, August being the guy, obviously, that Jada had, relations with, then I would believe at that point, if you're gonna make fun of the wife's indiscretions next to the husband who's now forgiven the wife, or who's resolved and moved on from that situation, and you bring it up even if it's in jest, then you need to be called into order. And if a punch is what it takes to get that done, heck, so be it. A lot of people would have actually probably supported him. It's currently it's now half half, but I do see, well, not really half half. I do see that the majority of people are actually supporting Will. No one is really talking much about Chris, but I do believe that Chris was actually the star of that situation. How he handled it, how he bounced back, continued doing his job. Yeah, Ncomeka loo nto leyo. He did quite well under the
Okay, so
circumstances.
okay, so then you're saying that then if there are instances whereby violence can be justified.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, we're human beings after all. We are in the flesh, you know. So there are instances, like I will actually echo something that I had said previously on our previous, um, what do you call it now? That, you know, if you touch one of my kids, then it's on. That is my sort of like, that's my breaking point. That's like my trigger. So people have triggers, and you can't actually dictate as to where the person can actually sort of like tick off when they feel like they've been triggered. Maybe I might be a bit contradictory because I said world shouldn't have, but I just don't see as to what was so severe that a person can just react the way he reacted. But we do definitely have triggers as human beings. Certain things are just not on. And for me, it feels like when you do defend someone that is not really necessarily able to defend themselves, then there is a bit of a justification. But I do believe Jada is a very strong woman. Even with the cheating scandal, she was there on the forefront. She was defending herself, saying that if Will paid more attention to her, then he would have noticed that she was not happy. She's very vocal. That's my thing. It's not someone that has difficulties expressing the way she feels. So I don't see as to why he now had to act on her behalf. She could have acted for herself, and then he could have just supported her acting kula situation, not be the main person that's now going and punching, and she's sitting there looking all poised. It was not a good look.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there are instances whereby then violence is justified, and that generally triggers that generally is linked with triggers of the person that you are then going to trigger, right? So which means that then if Will felt as though that was his trigger, then he
Mm,
is justified in himself to go and do what he did. Just like if someone, like you said now, were to say or do something to your kids, there is a
yeah,
certain level of that's a trigger to punch someone in the face, right?
mm-hmm.
So everyone has a limit as to where they can then snap, and then
Yeah,
that becomes a yeah, that then leads to violence, right?
which is completely understandable. However, referring back to the clip, he was laughing his lungs out, like initially when the camera was focusing on him. The wife wasn't. So my thing is, you're not gonna crack a joke about my child and I'm a hee hee ha ha before I react. I react pretty much straight away. You mentioned my child, it's like, I could be having the time of my life, but you mention my trigger, it's like, look, whoa, you've just now entered the danger zone. So my thing is, how much of Will felt Ubana he was being insulted? Kula situation, I don't feel like he felt like he was being insulted, but he saw that the wife did not like it. So he acted on behalf of that. So is that not manipulation? Is it really his trigger? Why would you laugh at something and then a couple of seconds later you are, ready to kill the guy? That is not a sane move, basically. So if he did not like it from the very from the beginning, and he was acting as if it didn't bother him by laughing, then it does really indicate that there is something that's not that okay right here.
Okay, here's I wanted to ask a side question which is linked to this, but
Mm.
why is physical violence something that needs to be used?
Look, violence sometimes is a tool that a lot of people use to get respect. Um, sometimes you feel that when you actually relay your dissatisfaction in words, people do not actually necessarily take you seriously. More especially if you are a very jokey person. You can be dead serious, but no one is really taking you seriously. But start slamming the table, start throwing something, and then they notice that no, so and so is no longer just joking now. They are being serious. Do you get me? So sometimes
Mm.
it's to call people into order because you feel like you're not being taken seriously. Not really saying that is a justification, but other people don't understand any other thing apart from actually throwing hands in order for you to show them that, look, ngiyaqheleka ngoku.
Mm. Okay,
Hmm.
so it's effective. That's what people use it.
I mean, it's the most effective thing.
Very effective.
Most probably, depending on the sort of surroundings that you are used to. I
Mm.
mean, in the township, violence is like the most effective way. You're gonna tell
Mm.
someone, don't do this. They're like, what are you gonna do? I'll actually do it in your face. So what are you gonna do about it? Do you get me? So you have two options. You walk away or you react.
Okay.
Depends on you.
And then
Depends on the
and then
level
in
of
that mode,
education.
yeah. And then in that mode, when someone does then snap,
Yeah.
you then, as the person that caused the trigger, have no control over the snapping.
Hmm. So who is snapping? Is it the other person or is it the
So
person
like
that
so
has
like
just
now, so like now, for example, like I'm saying, like bringing it back to this whole debacle. It's like when Chris said something and that triggered Will,
yes.
then that's up to Will now as to how far he can take whatever he snapped at. It's no longer in Chris's side.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
definitely up to the other person, because I mean it's their reaction. I did not dictate your action, so you're not gonna dictate my reaction. We'll take it to the head if
Mm.
you have to take it to the head. I'm just saying in a normal situation where you would really feel that, look, this was, just justified, then that would be it. You don't come and dictate that if I slap you, that's enough to put you into order. It's not up to you.
Mm. Yeah.
Mm.
But
Hmm.
it's up to the law.
It's up to
To the
the law.
law.
It's definitely up to the law. Look, the law is gonna sort of
Yeah,
like
so it's
sort
not
out.
it's not just it's within your control, right? Like it's
Yeah,
within your control to go and smack someone or punch them or stab them
yeah,
or shoot them, whatever
yeah,
you
yeah.
have. But then that consequence of that action is then not up to either of you. Or it's up to the person that wants to press the charges if he can. But it's
But
also then primarily up to the law.
yes, but now my thing is the law will only come at a later stage. I'm talking about the now. Do
Yes,
you
yes,
get me?
yes, yes.
Because
Yeah.
now with the law, obviously there's a lot of things that are put into factor. For example, if
Mm-hmm.
someone smacks you, you can smack them back. If someone smacks you
Mm,
and you take out a gun and shoot them, that is not
mm.
self-defense. You are escalating the
Yes, but
violence.
it's up to yeah. Yes, but that
It's
person
still
that
up to
smacked you
you.
does not have power over you shooting them or not. You
Yes,
do, but then once
exactly.
you do that, then the law comes into play
Exactly.
and okay,
That
yeah.
is going to be at a later stage and it will actually be determined there. That is when you're going to understand that, look, you can't actually call it self-defense and say, but now this person slapped me. I decided to shoot them because I felt
Mm,
like if I didn't, the next thing that they were going to do, they were probably going to shoot me first, only to find out that
yeah.
that person did not even have a gun. No, they would have probably
Mm,
grabbed my gun. Still doesn't
mm,
justify because now you are talking about probabilities. It could have happened, it could
mm,
have not happened, but doesn't change the fact that you actually escalated an act of violence from a slap to actually a gunfight or someone being
mm,
shot. It's not really a gunfight if it's
mm,
one sided.
mm, mm. Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Um, yeah. I see both sides for me personally. I see both sides. What the
Yeah.
point what their viewpoint is. I understand that. certain
Mm.
people have certain freedoms. Yes, so
Yeah.
the one side will say that look, it's just a job, um, and that's his job, and that's what he's supposed to do, and he has
Mm.
freedom of speech,
Mm.
right? And the other side will say, yeah, okay, fair enough. He's a jokester, he's a prankster. He does
Yeah.
have freedom of speech, right? But he doesn't have
Mm.
freedom to offend, right?
Yeah.
And therefore, the offense is not then up to him; it's up to the receiver of that
Yeah.
offense or or perceived offense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So my take is I see both those sides. They both make sense because, as you said again, it's like if someone said something to me, I know I'm tough enough to take it, so I wouldn't
Mm.
do anything. I wouldn't say some shit back. But if someone
Yeah.
were to say someone, a family member that's really close to me that I know can't talk back or defend themselves, right?
Mm.
And in that instance, perhaps then it's my trigger and I can't just keep quiet about it and I rage, then that's where deadly force comes in, right?
Yeah.
Or not so deadly, but that's where violence comes in, physical violence, right? Because it's like as you said again, it's very effective. So again, it depends on the degree of where you push someone and the degree of how they also perceive it, right?
Yeah.
So I understand both viewpoints, and I think for me, I'm not even I it doesn't really matter which side you're on,
Mm.
or which way you see it for me, because it makes sense. Perhaps that was his trigger and he was bound to break. And perhaps Chris should have known. And when he made that joke, sorry, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when he made that joke, being a friend, he should have known that that would have been far enough for to set Will off. And then when that happened, then did not have control over what would have happened as a result,
Mm.
right? Fine, fair
Yeah.
enough. And then the other side as well says, okay, well, no, look, Will should have known that Chris is a prankster and that everyone is going to be on the chopping block. And the fact that you're there means that you're probably going to be there too. And if it's something that's going to be very, what do you call it, out there in the public, he's probably going to make fun of it because that's what he does, right? And it's like, yeah, fair enough. That makes sense too, right? And then obviously in the moment, you don't really know then who's going to say what, when, and how are you going to react to it. It just kind of happens, right? My actual issue is that whatever side you're on, you need to then, or whatever viewpoint that you have, you need to be consistent with it with every other part of life, right? You can't then say, okay, look, I'm gonna support the viewpoint that Will Smith, what he did in terms of walking up and slapping Chris Rock was right. Okay, but then say because he got triggered by that, right? And then
Yeah.
say when a guy gets triggered by a female in a relationship and he goes up and he punches her out, you say that then she never deserved it. It's like you have to be consistent then,
Well, for
right?
me personally, I kept on saying repeatedly, but Chris Rock for me, I basically, with no disrespect, I sort of like see him in a very feminine way. I even continuously
Mm-hmm.
said, how can you hit someone that you know is not going to hit you back? Because they're probably
Mm-hmm.
terrified of you. So
Yeah.
it's not only about
Well, that's what
man
I'm
to
saying.
man, it's also about the probabilities of the strength of opponent. You're going to hit someone that you know is not going to hit back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, that's what I'm saying. So for me, it's like I am. Yeah, for like I said, for me, I can see both sides. What I'm saying is you can't choose one for the one and then a different one for the other based on how it makes you feel. At the end of the day, if you choose one for the one, then it has to be consistently like that, right? So if you think that if someone when someone gets disrespected, they and someone feels that disrespect, they need to go get punched. They need to get punched for it. Then that means that that's how you should feel, see it all the time. You don't get to
No,
pick and choose now all of a sudden and say, "Oh no, well actually, well if it's a friend of mine and they say something offensive and someone else comes and punches them, then that other person is in the wrong." It's like no, like you can't see it that way because you already chose a particular viewpoint, right? And it's the same the other way around. You can't be against gender based violence, violence against anyone, but then promote violence against someone. It doesn't make sense. You can't be two things at once, right? You can't say, okay, cool. Well, Will Smith went to go and smack Chris Rock, and Will Smith deserves more smacking. I mean, Chris Rock deserves to be smacked more. And then go around and say, well, there's this female that provoked her boyfriend or husband, or whatever. A guy provoked another guy, and this guy felt that he then had felt offense, and then went to go smack this guy. That the smacker is wrong. It's like you have to be consistent.
But again, we default back to what I said. What are the probabilities of the other person winning the fight? See, if you're a fighter, if you're a person that fights, I'm not saying now verbally, I mean physically. The joy in fighting is fighting someone that you know is going to give you a good fight. Do you get me? There is absolutely no satisfaction in fighting someone, fighting a female if you're a man, and you know you're going to smack this person around. They're going to fall down. You're going to carry on punching this person. Where is the satisfaction in that? That's sickening because this person is
Yeah,
not
but it's
physically fit enough to fight you. So what are you? Are you a fighter? Are you a bully? I feel like you're a bully. If you're a fighter, you want someone that's, your equivalent. I remember one
yes,
of
yeah,
these reality shows. The guy kept on saying, "If your girlfriend insults me and you are there, I'm gonna hit you. I'm not gonna hit her. She's a girl. I'm not fighting with a girl. If there's a guy that
hmm
just is just walking past, even if he's not part of this situation, and there's a girl insulting me, I will hit that guy. This is where I'm taking my anger out on. I'm not gonna hit a female. It basically sort of like resonated with me. I'm not saying it's okay, or I'm not really gonna go into that. But my thing is, why do you wanna hit someone that you know they're just not gonna be able to sort of like defend themselves effectively to you? Where's the joy in that?
yeah. Well, most people do it because, well, most people do, or they hit someone else because they're not going to be hit. It's not that they feel joy over it, but it's just that they feel as though that they've let go of whatever they need to let go. You see, so that's what I'm saying. You're saying the same thing precisely, but what I'm saying is that if you pick the one, you need to pick the one all the time. You can't then all of a sudden switch up and say, "Oh no, now this situation I'm going to be the other." Right? You can't do that because it wouldn't make sense in that case. Right? You can't then say, "Okay, cool." It's like the same thing was as like, well, guys and guys should fight each other. That's fine. Beating each other up is fine. And women should be fighting each other. That's fine. So okay, cool. That is fine. Let's say you take that viewpoint. Okay, so then what happens when a female then what slaps a guy? What happens then? Do you just leave it? Is that not fine? What happens if a guy smacks a woman? What happens then? It's not like it doesn't happen.
But a smack from a female is not going to be equivalent to a smack from a man.
It
But
doesn't
a
A
matter.
smack
smack,
is a
It's not
a
smack.
about the
smack from a
equivalent of the
child.
smack.
Yes, a smack is a smack. But now, however,
Mhm.
there is also sort of like the physicality of it all. We can be
Well, look,
both women. She could be.
a smack from anyone is not going to be the same as a smack from anyone. If I get smacked by a bigger guy as an adult and he's a bigger guy, it's not going to be
Mm,
equivalent. Just like the bigger
it's
guy
not.
smacking a female or me smacking a female. But a female MMA fighter smacking me might be even more than another bigger guy than me. So it's never going to be the same any other way. Why then? A smack is a smack. Physical violence, physical violence. You have your hands, you keep them to yourself. If you can't keep them to yourself, that's also fine because then you choose that. But then as a result of that, what happens is you just get put in a gown. That's it. You go wear an orange gown, and that's it. And that's
And
obviously
that's
then
when the
obviously
law
detected.
intervenes. Mm.
Okay?
And that's when the law intervenes again.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So that's what I'm saying is that then there is no gender, there is no race, there is no big and small, right? If you have hands and you don't keep them to yourself, right? Would you have every right to not to keep them to yourself, right? As you personally, you can go and do whatever you want to do. Okay, don't have the right, but anyway, you can choose to not keep them to yourself. Just know that when you then do that, you can then end up in an orange jumpsuit. right? And more often than not, when what
Mm.
happens is that the people that
Yeah.
encourage you to then go and use the physical violence, don't
Mm.
then don't use the physical violence themselves, right? Because they know the consequences of it, and they know that they don't want any sizing of orange gowns for themselves. So they rather you do it, right? And as a result, what happens? You're the one that ends up with an orange gown, and they end up free, saying, "Oh, you know what? I'll fight for you. I'll come and bring you lunch. I'll come and bring you some cigarettes at the penitentiary." And you have more chances there to even get into more fights, right? So that's the thing is that then as much as you want to, you can choose the non-physical violence, you can choose the physical violence. I understand that temperaments are different and certain people have different triggers and stuff, but you know that once you cross that physical violence barrier, right? Especially in this situation with Will Smith, it's like, look, Chris Rock goes and he presses charges. He says, "Well, I want." Will Smith says, "Well, I want to defend my wife's honor and this, and that." The court doesn't care, right? You assaulted someone. Okay, you go and you get into a jump street. Where's your kid's honor then? Where's your wife's honor then? They're left alone now. How are you going to protect them from jail? You can't. So now you've done a short-term thing, right? A short-term solution, which is
Yeah.
pain and infliction of violence, right? And then your actual goal is actually not a long-term goal because then you're not there to protect, right? Because, and the thing is that the law has to be set up that way because then it's a purge. Then everyone can smack anyone and say, "Look, I was angry, so I decided to smack him." Hey, but he dissed my wife. Oh well, he dissed my mother, so therefore I have a right to smack him. So in order to then separate all of that is to say, look, there is a law. You do not put your hands on anyone. It's your hands. Don't put them on anyone. It's never justified. If they put their hands on you too, you both go to jail. How about that?
Yeah. You're not necessarily going to jail for a smack, though. I forgot what they call it. But it falls under one of those petty things. If
Yeah, I
one
mean,
slaps the other, it's not really something that you can necessarily go to jail for. But I mean, them being high profile is definitely something that you can sue for. I mean, it's public humiliation. You can sue under
yes,
those
yes,
grounds. For
yes,
them,
yes,
anything is an insult, is an assault. Because obviously
yes,
they've got their own laws that side. But now for us here, you go and report that you've been smacked. I remember there was a
yes,
situation where I was in high school, and that was the situation with a boy. And because my school was not that far from the police station, the guy that I actually went and reported to, or the policeman rather, he said, throw him with a glass of water, something that's going to agitate him so that he can hit you more, then you can be able to open a case. And he burst out
yeah,
laughing, basically. So, and for me, it was like, look, I just need intervention. I'm not saying throw him to jail or whatever. I just need intervention. That's all I want.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
all started because of, the marks of a certain exam that we had just written. And I did quite well in it. And we had a study group, but he decided to bail out on the study group. So obviously, I'm celebrating my victory quite arrogantly, I would say. And he's like, well, when are you going to stop yapping about this? I mean, we all know you passed. I'm like, bruh, I will stop when I want to stop. It's my time. Let me enjoy it. He's like, look, if you don't stop, I'll make you stop. How are you going to make me stop? Wah! You know, so that was the situation. So I thought to myself, look, let me have
and
this
you
reported.
stop.
No, I changed ways basically. If that is stopping, then I don't know because now I actually had now to detour to the poly to have the
Yeah, yeah.
matter
So you stopped
reported.
doing what you were doing, so it was effective, which is why you used the violence, right?
Was it really effective? I would say to a certain extent, but with
Well, it
me,
was effective in the
if
short
if, if
term.
we
You
fight
wanted you to
at
stop what
that
you were
point,
doing.
but with
Yeah,
me, it never stops with me. That's my thing.
yeah. But that's what I'm
If
saying.
I feel, if
Yeah.
I like, okay, I would say the me back then. If I felt like you have overpowered me, we're probably gonna fight every day up until I feel like I've now actually defeated you. Maybe it was a pride thing.
Yes.
Like I
Fair enough.
said, I grew up around boys. I was the only girl for some time. we used to go to these fighting thingies when we were kids. It was always, fight, fight. So I really grew up with boyish ways of resolving things and stuff. So, but as I grew
Yeah,
older, obviously my brothers were always telling me that, look, we know we are the ones that actually groomed you to be a monster, but look, sometimes you just need to find other ways of having things resolved. So if you feel like you need to have it reported to the police station and you aren't there at that point in time to sort of like take care of it, then do whatever needs to be done that maybe does not include fighting back. So
yeah,
that was my first time trying to actually explore that avenue, but didn't really work for me. But I mean, the school had to still sort it out because then it also had to be a school situation thing. And yeah, luckily no parents were involved because I didn't want any parents involved. But it was like, look, if you do it again, I'll probably have to have my brothers involved, and we don't want that because my brothers weren't people that fought with hands. They just didn't use that.
yeah.
Okay,
Well,
hands maybe
look,
was a tool, but like yeah,
yeah, so that's a summary. That's basically a summary of everything that we just said, right? Is that
yeah,
if you have a temperament that you're going to then be more physically violent more than anyone else, you're more prone to then meet the law, right? Wherever it is, whatever, whether it's a fine, whether it's suing,
yeah,
whatever it is, you'll meet the law, right? Because of that, right? And if it gets to a point where it gets really aggravated, then you get into a jumpsuit, right? So you will meet the law regardless of what someone else has done. You can be guaranteed that you'll meet the law. If that person then retaliates in the same way or a similar way, then he'll meet the law, right? So either way, you guys will meet the law, especially if you can choose the side of physical violence, which is why everyone that's in jail for assault, chose that line. And the people that they assaulted that did not go down that route are not in jail, right? So this is what I'm saying is that it's fine to then look at it the one way and say, cool, well, I'm a guy and I'm always going to be violent. Say, cool. Most guys that are violent most of the time often end up with repeated offenses. And that often then ends up with you being jailed. Because in this, man, we talked to you about this, we gave you a fine. And then we talked to you about this to you again and we sued you. And then the third time, no, go. Because we're done with you now, right? Whereas this other person could have provoked you 3 or 4 different times. He's not going to get anywhere. He didn't hit you, right? He's not going to get a fine. On what grounds, right? So that's the thing. As soon as you choose to overstep that boundary where you're going to use uh, brute force, right, or your hands, then what tends to happen is then you get put in a certain place where then you can't be around other people, or you be around other people that are just like you.
no, true. And no, as it personally, if I were Chris, I would have still pressed
And
charges.
sorry, just to end it off as well. Like I said again, the sad thing about all of that is the fact that the people that encourage the people that use brute force are often people that would not use brute force because they understand the use of brute force will then tend to lead you into that avenue, right? To go and meet um, to go and to go and meet the tailor for your jumpsuit, right? So they often don't do that, but they then will sit back and applaud it when they see it happen. But
Yeah.
now what happens is that then the people that actually end up actually doing that nonsense,
Mm,
right, end
mm,
up in jail or end up with criminal offenses or records or lose their jobs or whatever. And these other people end up just chilling and just promising you, oh, you know what, you'll be fine. I'll do this for you. I'll find you another job. I'll come and
yeah.
meet you. I'll talk to the lawyer. So that's the issue that people that have a very short temper and try to then use physical violence, that's the issue that they get in is that they're always in trouble and trying to defend everyone all the time. And the people that they're defending are just chilling, saying, cool, well, yeah, well, my problem solved. You solved my problem. You're the hitman here in the family. You go. And then, boom, you're in jail. And they keep bringing you little lunches and stuff because they don't have the temperament for it.
Yeah.
It's not always the one winning over the other, though. Sometimes both lose. For you to hit someone to an extent of going to jail, it means that that person is also probably not left physically the same way they were before you committed the assault. So it's not a matter of the one that actually committed the assault is the one that gets the lowest end of the deal, and the other one is like chilled and stuff. Yeah, you want to.
Well,
So we need to
yeah, for sure. I
actually
mean,
use
because
preventative
that's your
measures.
plan,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we need
Yeah,
to
when you
use
hit them,
preventative
that's your
measures.
plan.
Yeah,
Just
that's the
Yeah,
thing.
so
But now my thing is for you to jump into orange overalls, there needs to be a certain level of violence or pain inflicted on the other person. So it's not a matter of them now they are chilling, and when I were in jail, what if they have also now gotten a physical deformity from the assault? So who's winning? No one is really winning. Can we then also, as a society, try to intervene in such situations and try to sort of like curb it from going to that point? Sometimes you will get a certain portion of people that will actually try to diffuse the situation, but you also do get a certain amount of people that try to actually cheer the situation on. I'll make a small example. It's really just a petty example, but nonetheless, it is an example. So this other day, I went to the shop, my local shop, right? And I see these two girls. Well, I think it was three girls, right? So these girls, they went there to buy something, whatever it was that they went to buy, and I'm standing behind them. So as I'm standing behind them, a girl walks past. So one of the girls that's queuing is saying to the friend, "Hey, there's your enemy." And then she's like, "Oh yeah, there she is, that witch." So the girl is just walking past, minding her own business, but now they're throwing insults at the girl. And now one of the friends says to Lo Kabage, she's got beef with this girl. She's like, "I feel like you've talked enough now. You need to hit her." And she's starting to get puffed up. And I'm like, "Look, if you hit her and she takes you to jail, your friends are not going to be there in the cell with you because they are
yes,
cheering you on. They want a reaction out of you. You're going to hit her, you're going to
yes,
end up in jail." Have you ever been to jail? Have you ever seen a
yes,
holding cell? Have you ever been in a four-walled place where you are starting to lose your mind, and an hour, just a single hour feels like 10 hours? And she was like, and I was like, "I've been. I'm not talking about something that I've never been in." And luckily, some guy also comes, and I think he was there to probably buy something as well. And he's like, "Look, I've also been there. Like, I'm a reformed gangster or whatever." And he basically put it into detail as to what she might expect purely from a holding cell and not the entire jail situation itself. So the friends are still like, "Nah, whatever, you can still hit her." So you're like, "Look,
yeah,
we are just acting as your
yeah.
conscience. We're not going to stop you from hitting her because obviously you are telling yourself that you're going to do it. But I tell you now, I will be the one that calls the police, and I will stand here till they come. I'll be the witness. This child was just walking past. She was minding her business. You guys were hurling insults at her. Your friends were pushing you to go and hit her. You were getting all puffed up and you wanted to hit her. There's no apparent reason. There's no tangible reason as to why you want to hit her. But, you are now being, cheered on by your friends. Do you get me? So that is
Yeah.
an example of society sort of like intervening, but you also do get the other side where they are saying, you know, whatever this person is saying, they don't know what they're talking about. You are being disrespected. Deal with the disrespect. Mad.
Look, yeah, yeah, for sure. That's exactly what happens. And what I'm trying to, I'm not saying that it's straightforward. I slap you, I go to jail.
Yeah.
It's not a consequence of that slap directly. If you've ever watched the movie Shot Caller, right? It's one of my favorite movies, but it's something along the lines of, if you choose one situation, you choose to do this, the next
Mm.
step that you get into will then lead you into a situation where it can be easier to get into the next step, easier to get into the next step, and easier to get into the next step. So people that are in jail, for example, generally don't go from, "Oh, I did something, boom, straight to jail," right? Normally it's repeat offenders, right? And they'll start with petty crimes and they'll get reprimanded for it. But that petty crime and that you being reprimanded might then decrease your status as a person, for example. or it might then lead you to a point whereby you are then likely to then have friends that are going to be like that, because the friends that are not going to be violent just like you, or going to be stealing or whatever it is, are not going to want to be friends with you. Now all of a sudden you've got that status, now you boom closer to then firing a gun. As soon as you fire a gun, maybe then that'll might also be a misdemeanor charge, right? And then after that, people go, oh, I'm not going to chill with this guy. He's always got a gun, even though you haven't killed anyone yet. But then the thing is, the people that you then get close to are people that like stuff like that, and that puts you closer to getting a jumpsuit just from doing something petty as, say, stealing something at a shop, right? Or say something as petty as slapping someone, puts you closer and closer to that. Just like now that we discussed with this whole Will Smith situation, is that leaving it once, right? The disrespect puts you in a position where then you have to take it again and take it again, to a point whereby then you then go up and slap someone on live television, and you don't even that wasn't taken as big as it should be. The fact that he was able to sit there, laugh through it, act normal, get up and get his award, almost basically be rewarded for it, although obviously it wasn't for the slap, but there was no reprimanding of that. Then it's like you get locked into that whole situation to a point whereby when something really bad happens, because not everyone's going to shun you, you end up in that situation. So most of the people are in jail, like I said again, they're not just, okay, did something now, boom, gone. It's like you go to jail, you drink and drive, you get into a car crash. Oh, you drink and drive, you get into a car crash, you get a DUI. Let's say that person passes away. Now you're, what do you call it? A murder, let's say. Whatever they charge you with, right? Now you're there. Then you go, oh, I just have to serve 5 years, nothing that bad. When you're there and you're locked up with these people, or when you're there and you're on the way to being there, you're more likely to get into more fights. You're more likely to get into more things that are just not legal. And that will lead you to a point where you can even become a gang member, right? Well, that is how that the movie is. I don't want to spoil it, but that's exactly how what it shows you, is that your life can legit change from one bad situation, like a physical assault or anything like that, into something that's completely you would have never thought, and you don't think to yourself, how the hell did I even get you? But it's those little actions get you into a green jumpsuit. So yeah, of course you're not gonna, like, if you stack someone, it's not gonna there boom 5 years. Of course not. But it's like what leads you to that. That's the if you want the route to go there, that's the route to go there. But then the other way is you're never gonna get there if you keep pushing people. So yeah, what is your take, Mish? By the way.
I feel like I
Hello.
missed some of it. So I'm
Oh,
still like at the beginning with the whole Will situation. But I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys
yeah,
saw the new footage that was released showing Jada's reaction to the slap.
Yeah.
So she actually
um,
starts laughing after he slaps Chris.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and then I saw a tweet before seeing this footage talking about how she is manipulative and how she
Yeah.
could publicly humiliate him. And
Mm.
it sort of ties in with what you were saying with how these people who are never going to find themselves in their violent situation, and they're not going to do it
Mm.
themselves, but they're going to push slowly and, like,
Yeah.
in intervals, they're going to push the person that they know is going to do it.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that, to me, that's sort of what happened, because Will was laughing when the joke first dropped. And
Thank
then,
you.
like, what changed? Like, if it was a reaction, like
Yeah.
on impulse, he would have, as soon as he heard the joke, he would have gotten up and done something. But he first
Yeah.
laughed.
Yeah.
And I like who interpreted the joke to be Chris making fun of her condition. Like,
Mm.
if she had her hair and bald spots on her head, I would understand.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
she intentionally shaved her head so that it doesn't look
Yeah.
that bad. And he was comparing her
Mm.
to a macho character in a movie where a female is
Yeah.
like the main character, and she's,
Yeah.
so like I feel like that's also how, like, people get society on sides. So they
Yeah.
push out this narrative like, oh, why, it's Will defending his wife. How must Jada feel? And blah, blah, blah. But
Mm.
after he slapped him, she started laughing. which means she
Yeah.
knows also that she can control him. And if he
Yeah.
does end up in the orange jumpsuit, her life's not going to change. She's going to find herself in another entanglement. And her life's going to
Yeah.
go on. And she's going to live the
Yeah.
best life because she knows that Will is. I saw another tweet here. I was just like reading stuff while you guys were chatting. And there's
Mm.
another tweet that says, Will is a beta man. He's not an alpha. And she knows that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, she's basically got him wrapped around her finger, and he needs her. She doesn't need him.
I think
Yeah.
I think
It's
that's
it's a
what's more
yeah.
sad about it.
It's a
Yeah.
codependency relationship. It no longer is really a marriage, but it's like a codependency situation. And Jada definitely does not need Will, but Will for some reason needs her.
Mm,
And I'm glad you pointed out the things that you had pointed out, because it was basically scarily much word for word how I interpreted the situation. I feel like she was the mastermind.
mm,
I feel like she was the puppet master. I saw Will laughing and I saw the wife not laughing. And I'd like to believe that when the cameras were actually focusing on Chris, that is when maybe Will had a conversation with the wife, or maybe saw the wife's
mm,
face and decided, you know what, let me react,
mm.
because I was also laughing. I'm probably going to be in trouble later onwards
Exactly.
when you go
That's
home,
probably what he was
you
more
know?
afraid of, going back home to
Yeah,
her.
yeah. So that's how I also saw it. So then my thing is, why would you first laugh if
Mm,
you aren't really fond of what is being said?
yeah.
Because I even said in my situation, my triggers are my kids. You say something about my child, I'm not gonna hee hee ha ha first and then
Mm,
react. I react straight away. You first have to see my face that no, she doesn't like it. You get me? I
yeah.
mean,
Mm.
Chris felt very comfortable because the husband was laughing, and who knows that the wife better than probably the husband. So I feel like he felt like he was on okay grounds
Mm,
because Will was laughing. He probably didn't even notice that Jada wasn't, because the husband was laughing.
yeah.
So it was dead wrong. It was wrong.
Mm,
And she's definitely gonna be the downfall of that man.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sad
Yeah,
because, like,
yeah.
after that whole red table thing and that entanglement news, the memes that came out of Will, like, tears in
Yeah.
his eyes, and how, like,
Mm.
that's so embarrassing. I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna forget the next day that Jada's got alopecia, but
Mm.
Will's face is all over the internet. It's gonna be there for however long, and everyone's gonna
Yeah.
remember how weak this man is.
Yeah. How do you allow your husband to be broken down in public like that? I
Mm,
mean, the entanglement situation was bad enough. And I don't even feel like it was her place to go and invite the husband over to that red table show of hers and make the situation worse, because it just looked
mm.
like a very weak man.
But
And
at what point is it all her fault?
look, the
Look,
thing is,
if you
what
care
you
about the
might,
man, then what are you like? For me, it's this whole situation also with, like, if you bring in gender-based violence or whatever, it's always based on
yeah,
the female being the victim, and no one ever
yeah,
sees the female um like
as the
agitating.
perpetrator.
Victimizing.
Yeah, they don't see
Mm,
them agitating the situation, and
yeah,
like, I don't know, it annoys me that females always have to be portrayed as the victim, and they can get out of responsibility so easily and so quickly, and you don't see the
yeah,
damage it's doing to, never mind a man, but like a fellow human being.
yeah,
I just, yeah, so that's what I'm saying, like,
yeah,
yeah, there's two. I was watching something yesterday. They say there's three sides to a story: my side, your side,
mm,
and the truth.
and the
And
truth, yeah,
we're only ever getting the two sides. I mean, that's just how are you going to get the truth? But I mean, it's just,
yeah,
I don't know. It's just
The,
really annoying.
the truth is normally determined by the law.
No, but even that, like,
yeah,
who's to say? Because, like, in the States, if you presenting in front of a jury, you're going to sway them. and you're not
Yeah,
presenting the truth.
not even that's truth.
Yeah,
Yeah, what you
it's
can
still
prove. It's the
it's
truth that
still
you can prove.
skewed. Yeah.
Yeah. All right then. I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
so I totally agree with her, right? And you did ask Ubana, why does it seem as though she's the one that is primarily being blamed? I think I might be paraphrasing, or tell me if there is something that I'm missing from what you asked. Look, us being women, Mishka, if you can maybe you can agree or probably disagree, but when you know that a man loves you and he's in love with you, you become that person's weak point, you know. So he will definitely do anything for you. So
Same the other way
sometimes,
around.
yeah, the other way around. But now I'm talking from a woman's point of view, right?
Whoever loves least
So,
controls the
so what
relationship.
happens? Yeah. So what happens is I can be your biggest strength as your woman because I know you love me, or I can be your biggest downfall. You can be my puppet if I choose for you
Mm,
to be my puppet. If it satisfies me to see you as my puppet because I know he loves me, do you get me?
mm,
I'll take your bank card, go on a shopping spree, leave it with 100 rands. No, my husband is not gonna say anything because he loves me. Do you get me?
mm,
So you get such manipulation going on in certain situations. So it's no longer a love relationship now. It feels like I just enjoy having a hold over you.
mm.
So I don't know if this is actually answering your question, but it does seem as though there is certainly a level of inequality in the equivalence of the love that Will and Jada have. I feel like Jada does have the upper hand.
Mm.
And Will is just looking weaker and weaker every day next to that woman. It's not a good look.
He's probably thinking he's getting stronger and stronger because now you can go on live television and smack people.
Yeah.
Because that is what she's saying, that is what she's saying to her, to his ear. I don't care what the
Yeah.
world thinks of you, baby. You defended me. I love you for that. Do you get me?
Mm.
So that's the
Yeah.
only affirmation that he's looking for, but we are just
Mm.
thinking, idiot. You get
Yeah.
me?
Mm.
So, yeah, man, for a person that you love to be broken down like that to an extent that is starting
Well,
to react in public and you're not doing anything to aid the situation.
Mm.
He shouted
and
twice.
also, and the thing
Mm,
is also, again, for me, it's like, perhaps let's say he feels that he's getting stronger. And this is the affirmation that he's always wanted.
yeah,
Just like
yeah,
anyone else. Like if I walk up and I smack someone and I've never smacked anyone, someone says, oh, well done. They don't really care why I did it. They just care the fact that I actually stood up for myself. So I might feel stronger. What I'm saying is that then for people that have temperaments like that, if you feel as though that those things will get you stronger, we'll see how strong you will be when you are in a situation whereby there's other people that will then do the same to you, if not eliminate you. And
No,
then
but
we'll
that's the
see that
thing.
then when
Yeah.
people say, oh, hey,
No, because also like he is reacting in order to save face for his wife.
yeah,
If that was a jab at him, his self-esteem is so low he would have let it go. So he's not gonna
yeah,
survive in the pink jumpsuit.
mm,
He's gonna be the female
yeah,
when he gets there because he doesn't know
mm,
how to defend himself because he doesn't know what his worth is. He's only
yeah,
worthy when he can defend her. And
mm.
I 100%
And the
agree
minute
with
it,
you
yeah, sorry.
with what you said earlier because as a female, I'm gonna admit now when I can
Mm,
manipulate a situation to my advantage, I'm gonna
mm,
do it.
you
yeah,
should.
And not a lot with your partner. And a lot women are gonna deny that till they
yeah,
go into the grave. But I'm telling you now, like
mm.
it's just in us. It's just in us to
It's in
do
us,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So we can see it. That's definitely what's happening here.
yeah.
I should crop just that part and just and delete everything else.
But guys are so
Yeah,
dumb, you won't even know that it's happening to you. So,
Yeah. Look,
I think the guys do know when it's happening, but it's like if you call it out, then you're less likely to also get what you want because you also trying to be manipulative. So you just let it go. It's like you know your bank balance is decreasing and you don't like it,
yeah.
but if you say anything, then this chick's gonna go home. So you
Uh,
say, I'm not gonna say anything because it's easier for me to. But then if she does go home, then you go, hey, my bank balance, something
Yeah.
has to match here, and
Yeah.
then physical violence. Yeah. Okay, so look, I'm gonna come back again in like the next hour. Okay. I wanted to also have
Yeah.
a conversation about this thief.
That's quite
oh yeah.
interesting. My kids will probably
Yeah,
be at home by then. So I wish I could because, yeah, it's one of those things that also just worked on my nerves. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So in an hour, I'll see where you guys are at. Otherwise, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Cheerio. Cool.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.